Stranger Things has left us stunned, shocked, and heartbroken across its 9 years on air. We're about to go through all the deaths so far, so be sure to subscribe, and let's get into it. The series opened with a brutal statement which set the scene for the whole show. In the hallway of Hawkins National Laboratory, a terrified scientist ran for the elevator, glanced up, and was yanked into the ceiling by something that shouldn't exist in our reality. That scientist became the first human victim of the Demogorgon when the lab's breach allowed the Upside Down to seep into Hawkins. Before any of this supernatural chaos began, grief had already touched the town. Sarah Hopper's fight with cancer ended before the series started, a personal tragedy that would drive every dangerous decision her father made going forward. When government operatives hunted down an escaped girl with abilities nobody could explain, a generous diner owner named Benny Hammond gave her food, smiled, and didn't ask questions. Minutes later, he was dead on the floor with a bullet in his head, executed by a federal cleaner named Connie Fraser, as the cover-up machinery kicked into high gear in a peaceful, idyllic town where monsters were supposed to stay fictional. 2 lab agents who attempted to capture that girl, 11, were hurled by an unexpected sure of power and died where they landed. Around these fresh horrors, older tragedies resurfaced. A suicide existed only in Hopper's memory, evidence that Hawkins carried ghosts long before it had dimensional rifts. A missing girl named Barbara Holland climbed onto a diving board behind Steve Harrington's house, then disappeared into the cold darkness and into the creature's realm. Barb never made it home. In lab flashbacks, 2 orderlies were killed violently, one with his spine shattered against concrete, the other with his neck broken by something invisible. Newspaper clippings mentioned MK-Ultra casualties, nameless test subjects who never escaped experiments that were never officially acknowledged. A search team in protective gear discovered a torn vest labeled Shepherd, proof that a highly trained operative sent through the gate had been captured and killed by something not from this world. Town gossip provided 2 more names, Dale and Henry, locals who disappeared and were eventually counted among the Demogorgon's prey. A rabbit died in the woods when Jonathan Byers fired a warning shot to chase off his father's rage, the small body serving as a grim preview of what hunted in the darkness. An injured deer bled near the tree line before being dragged into shadow and devoured by a demonic presence, treating the town as its food. A slimy, upside-down egg split open and was eaten by the predator that had built a maze of tunnels nobody wanted to explore. On the highway leaving Hawkins, 11 flipped a pursuing van through the air. The 2 agents inside died from their injuries in the huge crash. As the central gate pulsed red and the lab fought to keep control, Hawkins kept adding to the body count. 2 more locals were eventually listed among those taken and killed, part of the 6 victims that Dr. Brenner grimly confirmed had been snatched. In the school hallway, Connie Fraser's skull imploded under telekinetic force when she trapped the kids. 4 military police officers followed, their brains crushed in exactly the same manner. Another lab worker fell with the same sudden, bone-crushing finality. In the corridors, the Demogorgon tore through a group of soldiers, killing 4 of them in seconds. It then found 2 more lab employees and ripped them to pieces. Inside the upside-down version of the public library, vines jerked and writhed as Hopper fired rounds into living roots to carve out a path. Later in the gym, 11 confronted the monster, disintegrated the Demogorgon, and then disappeared with it. 1 season down, and Hawkins had already lost scientists, soldiers, neighbors, and a friend who should have been safe at a pool party. The winter following that mayhem brought a quieter sense of sadness. The Byers family dog, Chester, passed away between the 1st and 2nd seasons, a minor loss that showed how the strange new reality kept eroding away normal life. When autumn rolled around, a flashback revealed a squirrel slammed against a tree by an invisible push, a glimpse of 11's desperate, hungry months alone in the wilderness, where staying alive meant brutal choices and a disgusting carcass left behind. A cat named Muse became dinner for a growing creature that Dustin Henderson named D'Artagnan, one of many larvae connected to the tunnel system hidden beneath the town. In a memory from years before, Terry Ives fired a gun in a lab corridor, a guard dropping from her shot in a frantic attempt to reach the daughter she'd been told died at birth. Then the lab fell to monsters. A team of scientists monitored a tunnel camera when dog-like Demogorgons charged them in the darkness. 7 died in an instant captured on security footage. In a split-second flashback from the past, Kelly Prasad tracked down and shot a former lab worker during a breathless revenge mission that tried to settle a debt nobody could truly balance. When the tunnels finally broke into the facility, a technician went down in a spray of blood as demodogs flooded through doors and ventilation shafts. More technicians died the same painful way. 5 bodies abandoned right where they dropped. An MP attempted to hold position with his sidearm and was yanked off his feet. In grainy camera footage and scattered through hallways, 33 more workers were discovered dead, slaughtered by the pack, while Will Byers, possessed against his will, unknowingly led the swarm toward them. Then the show killed one of its most lovable characters. Bob Newby decoded the map on Will's walls, repaired a broken lock with a smile, and ran down a hallway with a grin that said, "Almost made it." He was attacked and eaten before Joyce could reach him, though, dying after narrowly escaping death just moments prior. 1 demodog died when 11 grabbed its body telekinetically. Hopper took down at least a dozen with precise shots in the tunnels and the lab, creating an escape route where none had existed moments before. When the gate sealed shut, D'Artagnan's consciousness went dark, along with the rest of the pack. Dozens of demodogs dropped in a chain reaction, their hive severed from its source as the breach closed, and the red light faded to black. The following summer arrived louder, brighter, and way more crowded. In a Russian facility attempting to tear open reality beneath a small American shopping mall, a test firing went catastrophically wrong. 7 scientists vaporized in an explosion when the prototype key destroyed itself. One surviving scientist died later, strangled by a vicious enforcer named Grigori, a man on a mission with a stare that could cut through glass. Above ground, rats and Hawkins started exploding by the hundreds, bodies liquefying as the mind flayer converted them into raw building material. The total reached well into the hundreds and left kitchens, basements, and alleys splattered with evidence that something intelligent was accumulating a huge, deadly mass. A local man, Jack Driscoll, died of natural causes off-screen, but the rat his wife had caught still joined the flood of small bodies bursting into goo. By the time the thing assembled at the steel mill started moving, the death toll had climbed again. In the hospital's corridors, 2 co-workers, Bruce Lowe and Tom Holloway, killed a nurse, a visitor, and a patient while controlled by the mind flayer, then hunted Nancy Wheeler and Jonathan Byers with a manic, grinning intensity that turned the hospital floors into a nightmarish and deadly maze. The fight that erupted was vicious and close quarters. Jonathan plunged a blade into Tom's neck. Nancy smashed Bruce's face until his bones collapsed. Both corpses melted into slime that crawled away to join the monster. On another floor, Dr. Zharkov took a shock from a taser during a frantic escape. Later, the flayed continued feeding the growing creature. Heather Holloway, Janet Holloway, and Doris Driscoll dissolved into wet, crawling slime to make the mind flayer's physical form more powerful. 2 men, David and Adam, went next. 2 more, Jack and Melissa, contributed their bodies to the mass soon afterward. A newspaper article later suggested 19 additional Hawkins residents also melted and joined the pile, their vanishings compressed into a few lines about a mall fire that buried the truth in plain sight. Across town, the spy game turned violent. At Starcourt, Hopper shot 4 guards in the underground base while Grigori kept getting closer. In the parking lot battle that followed, 11 hurled a car into a squad of soldiers with a powerful flick of her wrist. 4 of them died from their wounds, scattered across pavement and twisted metal. The 4th of July carnival lit up the night, and Alexei, the defector who adored cherry slushies, laughed while holding a stuffed prize, then dropped with a hole in his chest after Grigori's bullet tore through him. In the final battle, Hopper forced Grigori into the spinning machinery of the key. The device consumed him entirely, putting an end to his spy antics for good. Beneath the mall, 5 scientists died in the blast when Joyce turned both keys and closed the portal. The spider monster, the flesh giant constructed from the flayed, collapsed the moment the gate shut, disconnected from the force that animated it. On the opposite side of the planet in Kamchatka, a prisoner died in an iron and ice arena, torn open by a captive Demogorgon for the amusement of guards who'd witnessed too much. Then the monster turned on Billy Hargrove at the mall. It had possessed him, manipulated him, and nearly transformed him into a weapon that would have murdered a child. He broke free long enough to protect 11, giving his life in the process. Tentacles stabbed through his sides and drove through his chest. Blood soaked his clothes. He died on the floor while fireworks exploded overhead and the mall burned from the inside. When morning came, Starcourt went silent. The lights died and the town started counting the missing. The next year looked different from every perspective. A past massacre in a lab appeared first in fragments, then came to light completely. Children with numbers died on the floor with broken bones and destroyed eyes. Guards and orderlies twisted mid-motion. Doors ripped from their frames by invisible force. In the reconstructed truth, 1, the orderly who had befriended 11, snapped necks and crushed bodies, killing 6, Dr. Ellis, Alec, and 10, along with a lengthy list of numbered children, orderlies, and guards, before attacking 11 and attempting to end her. She reversed it and threw him through a tear in reality, which transformed him into something far worse. Years later, in 1986, Hawkins felt the ripple effects. A cheerleader named Chrissy Cunningham experienced waking nightmares, entered Eddie Munson's trailer, and died floating in the air as her bones snapped and her eyes went dark. In the woods and on an isolated road, a traumatized boy named Fred Benson crashed, stumbled, and then rose into the same killing ritual that left him shattered above the pavement. In Russia, Jim Hopper grabbed a guard's ankle restraints and converted them into a choking wire, killing the man who'd been strangling him in a frozen workhouse. A few hours after, 5 guards died in an explosion when Hopper and the team turned a smuggled package of explosives into an exit strategy. In a cursed memory from 1959, Henry Creel killed the family dog and small creatures around the house, then murdered his mother Virginia and his sister Alice by shattering their bodies in midair. He revealed the visions later to his father to twist guilt and grind down his sanity. A caller referenced a great uncle who never returned home, another absence buried in family history. Back in 1986, a high school swimmer named Patrick McKinney rose and broke apart above Lover's Lake. Another victim taken midair by a predator that tormented its prey before the final strike. Below the surface, fish impaled on thorned vines in the upside down twitched and stopped moving. more organic matter feeding a nest nobody wanted to see up close. The prison in Kamchatka operated a show for its guards. Prisoners were thrown into a stone arena and pitted against a Demogorgon. Oleg died quickly. Then 5 more prisoners were shredded in seconds. In that same facility, Demodogs were later discovered dead by the dozen, some shot by Hopper, others burned by Murray Bauman's flamethrower when the plan changed from rescue to complete extermination. At least one Demodog went down to a clean headshot from Hopper in the smoke and ice. Back in Hawkins, a vicious swarm of Demobats attacked the group in the Upside Down. Nancy Wheeler and Robin Buckley beat one to death with oars near the boat launch. Eddie Munson stabbed another as it dove. Steve Harrington crushed one against the ground and ripped it in half with his bare hands. In the lab flashbacks, more names from security records fell to one's killing spree. Blackman and Thatcher slammed into walls and the floor, dead instantly. Another guard hit the ceiling and collapsed. Selly died when his body struck concrete. Miller's neck broke in a heartbeat. An unnamed child's bones and eyes were destroyed. 2 more guards died identically. 4. Another numbered child with a shaved head rose and shattered midair like glass without sound. 2 more test subjects followed, and then another group of orderlies and guards in a sequence that resembled less a fight and more a massacre with no chance of survival. In the Nevada desert, a helicopter gunner shot Martin Brenner in the back and chest. He bled out in the dust under a sky that had watched him reduce children to case numbers. As soldiers chased them, 11 brought down the helicopter with a single glance, and the 2 inside didn't survive. At the Nina facility, 6 guards and 11 scientists lay dead by the end of the assault, riddled with bullets, until the site went quiet. A moment later, with the desert suddenly still, the journey back to Hawkins felt both nearer and more treacherous. Then came the extended night. In the tunnels beneath the Russian prison, a Demodog convulsed under a blast of electricity when Joyce jammed a taser into its body. Murray swung a flamethrower around until the room blazed and went silent, incinerating cages filled with snarling demonic creatures. In the arena, Hopper set a Demogorgon on fire, staggered it, then severed its head with a sword as it attacked. The camera jumped back to the Creel house, where a guitar solo bought time and a storm of leather-winged creatures turned and swarmed. Eddie Munson made a choice, drew the swarm toward him, and fought standing until the bites and cuts brought him down and kept him there. Vecna's grip on Max Mayfield tightened as the clock struck 4. Bones shattered, eyes went blank, her heart stopped. Moments after, 11 reached her consciousness and pulled her back. Max survived, barely, waking into a coma after flatlining. In the attic below, Jason Carver found the ritual happening, attacked Lucas Sinclair, and drew a weapon. When the final gate opened, the floor split between Jason's feet and the dimensional tear ripped him in half. The 4 rifts converged at the town center, and the ground shook like the lake had hours before. Radio transmissions listed the earthquake's casualties at 22 dead in Hawkins, Jason being among them. Another was assumed to be Eddie, but we know how he really met his end. That left 20 unnamed locals lost to collapsing structures, fires, and broken streets, the first victims of an invasion that had only begun. In the Russian complex, the cleanup turned brutal. A warden named Melnikov died in the chaos, and nearly 30 more guards, prisoners, and scientists were counted among the dead after the monsters escaped, and the battle consumed the facility from wall to wall. When the night ended, burned Demodogs lay in heaps, the beheaded Demogorgon curled in ash, and Demobats rained to the ground after their hive mind severed. The house on Moorhead buckled where it stood. The monitors beside Max's bed beeped into a different rhythm. The field behind Hopper's cabin darkened as tendrils from the other dimension started invading the world above. Season by season, the record is unforgiving and detailed, and it extends into corners that many wouldn't anticipate from its opening episodes. In the beginning, it claimed a lab scientist in an elevator, a mother lost to disease, a diner owner who offered kindness to a lost child, a federal operative who believed she could manage the fallout, 2 agents thrown by a power they couldn't comprehend, a bullied teenager who attended a party and never returned home, 2 orderlies the lab trained and exploited, faceless MK Ultra victims who disappeared into articles, a field operative named Shepard, 2 residents grabbed in the darkness, an animal in the wrong location, a deer that fed a hunter, an egg that never hatched, a pair of men in a flipped van, a series of military police and lab personnel crushed by invisible pressure, soldiers and technicians shredded by something with too many teeth, a living vine in a library that bled like any living thing, and the Demogorgon itself. In the second season, it added a family dog between seasons, a squirrel in a flashback, a cat in a kitchen, a guard in a harsh, brief memory of a woman reaching for her child, 7 scientists slaughtered by Demodogs, a former worker shot by Kaylee, a technician ambushed in the tunnels, 5 more technicians and 1 MP dragged down, 33 workers seen dead throughout the lab, Bob Newby in a hallway inches from escape, a single Demodog seizing under 11's ability, a dozen more dropping to Hopper's controlled fire, D'Artagnan going still the second the gate closed, and more than 24 Demodogs dying in the same instant when the hive connection broke. Then the summer gates opened, and the counter accelerated even more. 7 Russian scientists died in a test explosion, 1 more choked by Grigori. 393 rats exploded across Hawkins. Jack Driscoll died off-screen while his household still contributed to the swarm. A nurse, a visitor, and a patient were killed in the hospital. Bruce and Tom were eliminated in combat and then melted into the monster. Heather, Janet, and Doris joined the mass along with David, Adam, Jack, Melissa, and 19 more residents absorbed into a single organism. 4 Russian soldiers died beneath a hurled car. Alexei was shot at the fair. Grigori died in the key's rotating gears. Billy died under the spider monster's tentacles. 5 scientists were lost in the Starcourt blast. The spider monster collapsed when the door sealed, and a prisoner in Kamchatka fed a caged demogorgon that wouldn't remain caged much longer. The 4th chapter pulled the past into the present and doubled the price. The massacre victims started with 6, Dr. Ellis, Alec, and 10, then continued through numbered children and uniformed personnel as one walked a trail of broken necks and destroyed eyes. In Hawkins, Chrissy, Fred, and Patrick rose and broke, each death broadcasting this technique in horrifying detail. In California, agents fell in a living room, and Agent Harmon died after buying his friends a minute. In Russia, a guard died at Hopper's hands, and 5 guards died in an explosion. In Old Creel memories, a family dog and small animals were killed. Then Virginia and Alice Creel died, while the house remained motionless. A great-uncle's absence hung like a held breath. In the Upside Down, fish skewered on vines fed a nest. In Kamchatka, Oleg and other prisoners died in an arena. Demodogs died by gunfire and fire, and a demogorgon died by flame and sword. In the sky over Nevada, a helicopter fell, and its crew didn't survive. At the Nina site, guards and scientists died under a storm of bullets. Martin Brenner died, with the sand absorbing the last of his power. Back in Hawkins, Demobats died to oars, knives, and bare hands. A dog died to a taser. Eddie Munson died on the street he refused to abandon. Max Mayfield died and was brought back. Jason Carver died along a fault line when the final gate tore across the floor. 20 unnamed residents died in the earthquake that followed, the first wave of a larger catastrophe spreading over the town. When we add up all the carnage and bloodshed, we have a staggering death count of almost 800. And that's the story so far. Do you think Season 5 will eclipse the deaths we've seen so far in each season, setting a new record for destruction? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to see more Stranger Things content and theories, click the video on screen now.